And we'll begin with news on Nigeria's Democracy Day. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu paid tribute to the winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Moshood Abiola, during his maiden Democracy Day address aired at 7 a.m. on Wednesday. President Tinubu described the late Abiola, who died under suspicious circumstances following the annulment of his election by the late General Sani Abacha, as a martyr who stood for principles that are far more valuable than life itself. In his address, President Tinubu also acknowledged the sacrifices of numerous Nigerians who fought to establish democracy and paid the ultimate price. He eulogized Kudirat Abiola, wife of Chief Abiola, who was brutally murdered in the struggle for democracy, and Alfred Rwani and Major General Shehu Yar'Adua, retired, both of whom were also silenced by the military junta who were pursuing democratic ideals.
We lost great heroes and heroines along the way. In this struggle, the winner of June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief MKO Abiola, the most significant symbol of our democratic struggle, his wife, Kudirat, General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and Pa Alfred Rwani, amongst others, sacrificed their very lives. They bravely surrendered their fortunes so that our nation might have a better one.
Still on the commemoration of Democracy Day in Nigeria, President Tinubu has assured the organized labor that an executive bill on the new national minimum wage for workers will soon be sent to the National Assembly for passage. Now, President Tinubu, who also acknowledged the economic difficulties in the nation, empathized with Nigerians and promised necessary repairs required to fix the economy. He urged Nigerians to embrace the challenges of the future and to continue moving forward together towards progress and prosperity.
I understand the economic difficulties we face as a nation right now. Our economy has been in desperate need of reform for decades. It has been unbalanced because it was built on the flawed foundations and over-reliance on revenue from exploitation of oil. The reforms we have initiated are intended to create a stronger, better foundation for future growth. There is no doubt that the reform has occasioned hardship. I feel your pains. Yet, there are necessary repairs required to fix the economy over the long run so that everyone has access to economic opportunity, fair pay, and compensation for his endeavor and labor. As we continue to reform the economy, I shall always listen to the people and will never turn my back on you. In this spirit, we have negotiated in good faith and with open arms with organized labor on a new national minimum wage. We shall soon send our executive bill to the National Assembly to enshrine what has been agreed upon as part of our law for the next 5 years or less.
Meanwhile, Nigerian governors have taken turns to promise hope for citizens in their respective states as Nigeria celebrates the 25th anniversary of a return to democracy in 1999. Now, after congratulating Nigerians on their 25th year of unbroken democracy anniversary, the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, said the atonement of the feat is due to the sacrifices of Nigerian heroes and nationalists. In his message to commemorate Democracy Day, Governor Ubar Sani of Kaduna State commended the citizens for embracing democracy and defending it with their blood and sweat. Speaking on Wednesday in Bauchi State, Governor Bala Mohammed said it was clear that democracy is not only rooted but has also come to stay in Nigeria. Meanwhile, Governor Diku Rada of Katsina State issued a stirring call for unity, tolerance, and unwavering support for the nation's progress as it confronts formidable challenges. Still on Democracy Day, the 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has called on the masses and political leaders to respect and protect the institutions of a democratic state by obeying the governing laws of the state and being accountable to the people. Obi said democracy was beyond elections, but fulfilling the responsibilities of responsible governance as contained in the Constitution. His comments came on the heels of the 2024 celebration, the Democracy Day, on June 12 in Nigeria. And according to him, the creation of a true society for democracy to thrive is possible. The former presidential candidate also lamented some of the ratings, which he said were indicative or indications that the nation is not truly democratic. To discuss the role of this, we will bring you more discussions on this as the news unfolds. We move away from that now, but still on Democracy Day, a group of civil society organizations in Nigeria led a protest in Lagos to express their grievances against the government over the economic hardship and rising inflation in the country. They are asking the government to create a people-friendly policies and to eradicate the looming hunger and hardship among its citizens. News Central's Adishawa Udushoga reports.
This is the second Democracy Day that the Tinubu-led administration has observed since taking office in 2023. And for many, not much has changed except for the increasing lamentations over rising hardship. While June 12 has been set aside to celebrate the significance of democracy in commemoration of the 1993 election, widely adjudged as the freest and fairest in Nigeria, to date, Nigerians express disappointment that the same cannot be said about the election that ushered the current administration. With placards bearing different inscriptions, civil society groups and human rights activists in their numbers gathered in the capital of Lagos, Ikeja, to protest the current economic hardship and policies of the government with adverse effect on the citizens' welfare. Among their demands are an end to hardship and hunger, fee hikes for tertiary students, insecurity and police brutality, and reversal of fuel prices and electricity tariffs, among others.
There is hardly a Democracy Day celebration in Nigeria now that has gone without protests by civil society groups. Again, we are witnessing another one. Amidst the hunger and police brutality, insecurity, hike in prices of commodities, Nigerians are asking for an end to the economic hardship in the country, and they're asking the president, Tinubu-led administration, to immediately reverse prices to before when he was elected president, or resign from office.
We're here because what democracy stands for, we're not getting it in this country. We're here because what Abiola stood for, we're not getting it here. We're not getting it in this country. Abiola stood for what was right. Abiola stood for the masses. But what we have today, we have government of the bourgeois. We have government that doesn't care for the masses, and they want to celebrate June 12. Where are the real June 12 activists? Where are the ones who stood for June 12? Not those cabals, not those looters in the air conditioner now. So we are on ground to already show Nigerians that we're hungry, and Nigerians should be ready for what's going to happen very soon. And that's the revolution. Revolution is about to come up.
We are celebrating democracy in the midst of poverty, in the midst of plenty. There is nothing to celebrate. We are only celebrating corruption, insecurity, hunger.
Students requested that the government repeal the tuition fee increase were among the demonstrators. According to them, studying in Nigeria's unfavorable setting has gotten even harder.
It's not easy begging people for money. We have turned to an beggar. From the fact that we cannot afford to live. So we can't afford anything on campus. Everything is cost on campus than outside, honestly.
The Nigerian police force had earlier warned against violent protests across the country. And to maintain safety and order, there was a heavy presence of security personnel across the state and with the protesters. In Lagos, for News Central, Adishawa Udushoga.
Still in line on Democracy Day and all the conversations and celebrations around it, we know that the governors scattered across the 36 states have also called for unity and also called that Nigerians consolidate on the 25 years of unbroken democracy. And now to discuss this further, I'm joined by Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, Elvis Akpobi. Elvis, thank you so much for coming on. Let's get started. What are the key principles of separation of powers in a democratic system, right? Let's start there, and then let's talk about how do they prevent the concentration of power at the very center, which is the executive.
The executive, for me, from what I know we have the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Executive mostly is to execute most projects, bring infrastructure, protect the lives and properties of people. Why I know the judiciary is to, the hope of the common man, where people take their cases to and they get fair judgment. Despite we don't get have that lately, and that's of the legislature, which is meant to make policies, make bill that that becomes law, which should be enacted. But lately, you just hear people, a legislative house made so be it was passed into law, but not really implemented.
Right. And how does the system of checks and balances operate, to ensure accountability among these arms of government?
Ordinarily, the legislator for me is meant to, check, not be a watchdog to the executive. But lately, you see the legislative arm of government is seems to be an appendage. The romance sometimes the executive controls the legislature, and to me, our democratic process today is not working because of all these loopholes, so many interests, political interests, selfish interests along ethnicity, interests along religion. And for a country like Nigeria, I would say we are a sleeping giant at the moment.
So how then can we, hold elected officials and even public servants, accountable to their actions, including situations like, when impeachment or investigations or even oversight? How can the legislative then now, hold checks and balances?
Let's start with the Constitution. For me, the Constitution is the DNA of our country today. But any country that it takes more than just praying for Nigeria. Any country that follows the DNA will do well. Do we really go? Is the Constitution really working? For me, it's not working. We don't go follow what's written in the books. Holding our leaders accountable and all that. Like I've said in many forums, I find myself is citizens have become leaders, and we've not really used those leaders who fall short of leadership as scapegoats. People do things and they get away with it. The judiciary on the other side have not really helped. They interpret the Constitution in different ways. So for me, both almost the three, I was categorically say the three arms of government really need overhauling. We need to sit down. We need to domesticate the Constitution. In some countries, people know their rights. As a 10 years old, you see a 10 years old child, they will be quoting the Constitution and he or she knows it's all right. But in Nigeria today, it's not like that. It's I would say we are operating a democratic process. I would say we are operating an hegemony process where a particular set of people decide what happens. If it favors them, it goes well. If it does not favor them, they adjust it, and that's where we are. That's where we are at the moment.
And then how do then democratic systems, balance representative democracy as well as direct democracy mechanisms, such as referendums and even initiatives? Then
let me start from Let me use an example to your question, like the amended electoral law. The last election, there were cases, there were agitation from a particular quarter that says, and it's written in the books. The amended electoral act talked about electronic display of voters accreditation and votes. But they were like, what happens on the ballot reflects in the site and all that. But the INEC chairman came and read a different meaning that was not what was written in the amended act, and Nigerians kept mum about it. So I think because of only a privileged few knows how to interpret the Constitution, and it favors them. A lot of Nigerians have given up on Nigeria. But still, if you listen to the president's speech today, he acknowledged a lot of activists who died for the struggle of democracy and all that. Can we see? Do we see have such activists today? Can the president categorically say that he allows democratic processes to go through? Like, if an activist comes out to, because today one of the reporters complained about, the journalist was complaining about the fact that we have investigative journalism where people were free to air their views on, call out the presidency, call out any government and be safe. We don't have that, and that alone does not show that we're operating a very strong democratic process.
Elvis, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you for doing this with us.
Thank you for having me.
And watching news now on News Central TV. We'll take a short break. When we come back, there's more stories surrounding the Democracy Day celebration for today. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. The federal government has announced changes to the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project to prevent potential damage to subsea cables owned by telecommunication companies. The highway, initially planned as a 10-lane project, has been downsized to 6 lanes to reduce cost. Minister of Works David Umehi made this announcement during a meeting with contractors on Tuesday in Abuja. He also revealed that the government has disbursed 10 billion naira as compensation to property owners affected by demolitions necessary for the construction of the 700-kilometer highway. Additionally, it was announced that the first 47 kilometers of the project will be open to the public by May of next year. The Lagos-Calabar Highway, currently under construction, will span 9 states with 2 spans extending to northern states, featuring concrete pavement for enhanced durability. Rescuers have lost hope in finding at least 20 Nigerian miners trapped in a collapsed pit over a week ago. According to Ibrahim Aldi Hussaini, spokesman for the State Emergency Management Agency, the chance of finding survivors is now considered lost 8 days after the miners were buried inside the pit. Hussaini clarified that the rescue operation has not been officially called off. However, families of the trapped miners, who are predominantly Muslim, have already held the 7th day prayer for the repose of their souls, acknowledging their likely deaths. The accident occurred on June 3rd, trapping artisanal miners employed by a local company in Kalkogo village located in the Shiroro district of central Niger State. In response to the escalating deforestation crisis in Nigeria's northeast, UNICEF and the Borno state government have joined hands to launch a comprehensive action plan aimed at reversing the damage caused by rampant tree cutting. The Borno Climate Action Plan will focus on planting 1 million trees throughout the state to restore depleted forests and combat climate change. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
The cutting down of trees continues, particularly in the rural communities. This is because it is the age-old practice of the people as they strive for survival. This practice is considered dangerous to the generality because it leads to reduced vegetation and agricultural productivity, among other shocks and disruptions. Experts have been vocal about the need for urgent intervention, highlighting the devastating impact of deforestation on local ecosystems, biodiversity, and livelihoods.
I want to ask you to make your contributions on how we can get our environment in Borno to be better, so that we can get our rains, we can reduce floods, we can have more food, we can have more wildlife, we can have more wood fuel or fuel woods, and also trees that we can sit under.
By engaging in activities such as tree planting, waste recycling, and promising renewable energy solutions, the youth can make direct contribution to minimizing waste and reducing carbon footprints. Together, we can build a sustainable future for our children. By empowering the youth and by committing to decisive climate action, we can transform challenges into opportunities.
And this year alone, the state government is raising 10 million assorted seedlings for planting in various parts of the state, more especially in areas hard hit by the encroaching desert.
They stressed the importance of implementing strict measures to regulate tree cutting and preserve the region's natural resources for future generations.
And we must also adopt improved irrigation techniques such as the drip and the sprinkler systems, as well as conservation measures that are aimed at reducing soil degradation.
So when we follow these action plans, it will help us reduce the carbon emission into the atmosphere.
The community-led conservative initiatives by the government and development partners is a step to tackle the situation. However, the question is, are sustainable alternatives available for both rural and urban dwellers to win them of this choice of fuel? In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The Nigeria Data Protection Commission says that it generated about 6.2 billion naira in 2023 alone. The Chief Executive Officer of the Commission during an interactive section with the media as part of activities to mark the first-year anniversary of the enactment of the Nigeria Data Protection Act says that the Commission has concluded plans to train 1,000 data protection officers within the next 1 month. News Central's Joshua Imarai has the details.
A one-day engagement with the media in commemoration of the enactment of Nigeria's 2023 Data Protection Act. The Nigeria Data Protection Commission says that the Act has provided a legal framework to enable the Commission perform its duties as Nigeria's primary data protection agency. The Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, while making this known in the nation's capital, Abuja, says that the agency has been saddled with the responsibility of ensuring adequate data protection of citizens and enforcing privacy compliance in the country.
We have gained global recognition and made a lot of impact in terms of recording the rights of our citizens, looking at the obligations of data controllers and processors, knowing that data subjects are the supreme being here. All we're interested in is the citizens of this country. And in terms of scope, if you're a data controller, a data processor, you are domiciled in Nigeria, you process data of Nigerians, you are within scope. And if you're a data controller or processor, you're outside, you are not domiciled in Nigeria, you operate outside Nigeria, but you process data of Nigerians, you are within scope. And one thing that the law has empowered us to do now is to work with other DPAs, data protection authorities, to enforce our laws in their jurisdictions.
The Nigerian Data Protection Commission says the 2023 Nigerian Data Protection Act has strategically positioned Nigeria in the map for foreign direct investment, particularly in the area of digital economy. The Commission says it has generated a revenue of 6.2 billion naira in the year 2023.
In terms of economic value, we have an ecosystem that is worth over 10 billion naira now, also because of the law. But in the area of foreign direct investment, this law has now positioned Nigeria as a country that is ready for digital business. Because most countries now, development partners, in fact, there are some development partners doing one thing or the other with a lot of organizations in Nigeria. The first they work that you have a data protection law.
The Commission also revealed that it has concluded plans to train 10,000 public servants in data responsibility management and another 1,000 data protection officers in the next 1 month. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imara.
And continuing the news in Western Africa, the African Transformation Movement ATM party says it has taken a step towards ensuring electoral integrity and justice as served by filing papers with the Electoral Court, calling for the court's due consideration into allegations of misconduct against the chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission, IEC. The ATM party says the IEC chairperson allegedly conspired with the ruling party, ANC, to undermine ITM's participation in the democratic process, including attempts to deregister the party and manipulate election outcomes. Meanwhile, among the various reliefs sought, the ATM says there is a necessity for a revote for justice and accountability. Namibia's Ministry of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security says 31 countries, mainly from Europe, will be removed from its visa-exempt list due to the lack of reciprocal visa arrangements for Namibian citizens. The Namibian authorities say nationals from these countries will need to complete an online application form and obtain visas on arrival. According to the Namibia tourism satellite account, the tourism sector contributes 6.1% to the country's GDP. The European markets, which are crucial to Namibia's tourism industry, are included in the list of countries that may now require a visa on arrival. Israel and Hamas have been accused of committing a litany of war crimes and human rights abuses since 7th October in a new independent report to the UN Human Rights Council. The critical accusations compiled by investigators from the UN's Commission of Inquiry accused both sides of war crimes for mounting attacks against civilian populations and murder or willful killings. The report, which covers the period up to the end of 2023, specifically accused Israel of crimes against humanity for torture, extermination, and gender persecution, targeting Palestinian men and boys. However, Israel rejected the report's findings and accused the Commission of pursuing a narrow-led political agenda against it. Bangladeshi Nobel laureate Mohammed Yunus and 13 others have been indicted in a graft case. Mohammed Yunus and 13 others were charged in a Dhaka court in a case over misappropriation of about 250 million taka, Grammy Telecom Workers' Profit Participation Fund. Now, according to the Anti-Corruption Commission, prosecutor Musharraf Hossain Kaljo said that the charges framed against Mohammed Yunus carry a maximum sentence of life imprisonment and a minimum of 10 years. George Saeed Arafat Hussain of Dhaka Special George Court 4 rejected a plea for the dismissal of charges by the accused and ordered the indictment before setting July 15th for the next hearing. Mexican president-elect has said that she says that investors have nothing to fear from proposed judicial reforms that have rattled confidence in Latin America's second-largest economy. While speaking in a news conference after a visit from a U.S. delegation that includes Homeland Security Advisor Elizabeth Sherwood Randall, Mexico's stock market and currency fell sharply last week on fears that a sizable majority in Congress would enable the president-elect's left-wing ruling party to push through constitutional changes potentially damaging to the business and economy. And one of the proposed reforms, which require the approval of 2/3 of Congress, is for judges to be chosen by popular vote.
Y lamentablemente, que además hay muchas honrosas excepciones, la gente tiene una percepción de corrupción del poder judicial. Entonces, tiene que avanzar la reforma al poder judicial. Fue parte de lo que se planteó en la campaña y no tiene por qué haber preocupaciones porque finalmente es para la fortaleza de la justicia en nuestro país, para la fortaleza de la seguridad, para la fortaleza del bienestar de las y los mexicanos. Lo importante es que sepa quién va a invertir en México, que hay certidumbre de la inversión en nuestro país porque hay estabilidad económica, hay estabilidad social, hay estabilidad política y que en el marco siempre del cumplimiento de las normas en nuestro país, pues evidentemente toda esta relación comercial que hay con el mundo entero y particularmente con empresas de Estados Unidos, la relocalización de empresas, eso va a continuar.
The Hong Kong government says it has cancelled the passports of 6 democracy activists who fled to United Kingdom, accusing them of continuing to blatantly engage in activities that endanger national security. Besides cancelling their Hong Kong passports, police say anyone offering funds, leasing property or running a business with those named could face up to 7 years in jail. Since authorities squashed massive at times violent pro-democracy protests in 2019, Hong Kong has intensified a crackdown on dissent, enacting security laws that have curbed the city's unique freedoms. In response, political activist Fin Lau said he had only ever held a British national overseas passport, which is available to Hong Kongers born in the former British colony before the 1997 handover to China.
Immigration department will, according to our law, they will cancel their passport. And there's a well-established mechanism among different countries regarding how to notify the cancellation of passport. According to all those covenants, and there are exceptions because of national security grounds. And this is not just applicable to Hong Kong, it applies to all civilized society. Under our suspension requirement, even they want to apply for a new passport, it won't be allowed. And as I said, it will be illegal to provide fund or to handle the fundings. It doesn't matter which platform is it, as long as they are providing funding or assisting them to handle the funding, will be subject to criminal sanction.
The funding crisis for African startups has deepened in 2024, with dwindling investor dollars pushing companies to incur debt to stay afloat. Startups are recording fewer funding rounds, resulting in widespread layoffs and shutdowns. According to Africa, the Big Deal, a data insight firm that tracks deals above $100,000, African startups announced $729 million in funding in the first 5 months of 2024, with debt servicing accounting for 35%. Now, this amount pales compared to the $1.7 billion announced in the same period of 2023 and $2.7 billion in 2022, highlighting the difficult funding climate for startups. And as a result, startups are increasingly relying on debt servicing, which was rare in the ecosystem until 2023. Competition on the popular Lagos-London route has intensified, with foreign airlines slashing fares, some even undercutting Air Peace Airline, the only Nigerian carrier on the route. An economy class return ticket on British Airways, is now 1.6 million naira, now costs £1 million less than that of Air Peace, which charges 2.6 million naira. Ethiopian Airlines charge 1.66 million naira. Akis charges 1.7 million naira. Qatar Airways charges 1.9 million naira. Royal Air Maroc 2.4 million naira, each one charging less than Air Peace. A business class return ticket on Air Peace, however, costs less than the price of the foreign airlines at 3.8 million naira. Royal Air Maroc charges 4.9 million naira from business class passengers. Turkish Airlines 5.4 million naira. Ethiopian Airlines 5.8 million naira. British Airways 6.4 million naira. And Qatar Airways 6.9 million naira. Nigeria is presently on the verge of losing $27.92 billion in funding for the proposed Escovos Star Seaport industrial complex project in Delta State, as the federal and state governments are stalling in granting final approval for the project's takeoff. Expressing concern, Rear Admiral Andrew Okoja, retired chairman of Mercury Maritime Concession Company, developer and lead promoter of the port project, told journalists that the foreign investors are ready to commit funds for the commencement of the port project. According to Okoja, the project promises to massively open up Delta State and 7 other states, including FCT, Abuja, to international investors in the area of trade, commerce, and industry. Atalanta, the Italian Serie A club, has assessed the value of Nigerian Super Eagles winger Ademola Lookman at approximately €30 million. Now, Lookman has showcased his talents for Atalanta during the recent season, achieving double-digit goals. His standout performance came in Dublin, where he netted a hat-trick in the UEFA Europa League final against Bayern Leverkusen, now garnering significant attention. Now, despite numerous clubs expressing interest, Atalanta announced on Tuesday afternoon that Lukman is not for sale but remains valued at 25 to 30 million euros. Lukman himself has frequently expressed his eagerness to join a top-tier club, highlighting his ambition for a new challenge. Following a comprehensive post-season evaluation by Manchester United's board, Erik ten Hag is set to continue as manager. Now, talks are underway to extend his contract, which enters its final season soon. Now, United initiated the review immediately after the FA Cup final. Now, despite pre-match speculation about his dismissal, ten Hag led United to a 2-1 victory over Manchester City, positively influencing the review process. Now, constructive discussions have occurred, indicating a preference for the 54-year-old Dutchman to remain in charge. While ten Hag expressed delight, there were hints of impatience during the review period. The club defended a 2-week assessment period, considering it necessary under new ownership. Although Thomas Tuchel and Maurizio Pochettino were considered during their availability and interest varied. Other names linked included Graham Potter, Thomas Frank, Roberto De Zerbi, and Gareth Southgate. Although logistically constraints and prior commitments influenced the decision-making process. Another European Athletics Championship in Rome, Dara Nata narrowly missed out on gold in the women's 200-meter final, losing by just 1/100th of a second in a photo finish to Switzerland Monjija Kamjendi, now who defended her title from 2 years ago with a time of 22.49 seconds. France's Helena Parisot took bronze with a time of 22.63 seconds. Netta, aged 27, graciously embraced a Swedish counterpart after the dramatic finish where the Swiss athlete clinched the gold. The silver medal for Netta contributed to Great Britain's total of 11 medals overall on the penultimate night of competition, in Rome. The Great Britain team also celebrated 22-year-old Megan Kitt's first senior medal, a bronze in the 10,000 meters with a time of 31 minutes, and that's about 0.77 seconds there. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. President Tinubu has hailed MKO Abiola and other heroes of the nation as Nigeria commemorates June 12th, Democracy Day. ATM political party has filed court suit against South Africa's electoral body chairperson over alleged misconduct. And we also told you that Namibia is set to remove several European countries from its visa-exempt list for failure to reciprocate. Now remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And do make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV.